In our previous video, we focused on understanding a proper order management system. We learned how you, the seller network participant, should provide sellers with order visibility through an order management dashboard. We also delved into the various functionalities of order management, the process it entails, and discussed the essential reports recommended for sellers in their panel. In this video, we will understand how to manage seller cancellations and some operating procedures you must adopt while addressing this issue to minimize cancellations. Ideally, no seller would want to cancel an order. The aim is to satisfy and fulfill a buyer's needs. But there are times when a seller may have to cancel an order or more than one order. Let us see what could be the different reasons for order cancellations by a seller and what are the standard operating procedures to minimize different kinds of seller cancellation situations. One of the most common reasons for an order cancellation by a seller is when there is no inventory available when he receives an order. The reasons for this could be several: inventory not updated, product expired, or inventory sold out in other channels. This is a standard operating procedure issue at the seller's end. A seller needs training in following a standard operating procedure. Let's look at standard operating procedures for both immediate and non-immediate product dispatch categories. A standard operating procedure for managing stockouts for a non-immediate category like apparel would be something like this. At regular frequency, sellers download the inventory status report from the panel. Here, you, the seller network participant, will have to pre-fill the columns and make them available to the seller from the seller panel. This here is a sample inventory health status report. Let's find out the various steps involved in creating this report. Step 1. Download the product level inventory from the seller panel. The first column will show the current inventory against each product ID. Then check the number in the current inventory column against each product ID. Also, please make sure that the seller updates the correct inventory through the seller panel. Step 2. In this column, you can see the daily average sales for each of the seller's stocked items. This column is created by calculating daily average sales for the previous 10 days. For the third step, in the column for expected orders for 10 days, the seller should be able to see the total orders expected. The seller must adjust for any expected spike or dip in sales. The reasons for a spike or dip can be because of the upcoming sales season or the end of festive sales, a decrease or increase in price, or a seasonal change. The seller must add an adjusted number in this column. Step 4. The inventory gap column shows the inventory shortfall or excess expected in the next 10 days. If this is in the red zone, it indicates that there is an issue. When there is an excess of inventory, it falls in the green zone and it indicates that your inventory status is good. If it falls under the yellow zone, it means your inventory is only slightly above the expected sales. You have just enough. Also, make sure that the line between the yellow and red zone is defined at the seller's business or category level. Step 5. If the products are in the red, the seller must order more products at the right time. Step 6. If the products are in yellow, the seller should evaluate the risk at the product level and choose whether they should order more on the basis of expected variability in sales or not. If they follow the suggested SOP or standard operating procedure at regular intervals, it will ensure there are minimal to no seller cancellations due to unplanned stockouts. There's another suggested SOP that sellers can follow to manage stockouts in the case of immediate dispatch categories like food and beverages. Let's say there is no option to update the number of units of the food items available when the seller immediately dispatches products, and it is difficult to map raw materials of food with the number of units. For example, the quantity of batter or flour against the number of dosas. Still, these categories should have an option of marking products available versus not available for sale in the seller panel. It is critical that the information flows in a timely manner to the person managing the inventory panel as soon as the product's raw material is over, say from the kitchen for the food and beverage category. It is important for the person managing the panel to follow the subsequent steps. Before the store opening hour, coordinate with the team and mark products available or not available for sale for the day. As soon as information is received of a SKU not available during the open hours, mark the product not available immediately. In the worst case, if the information was not received on time and an order can't be fulfilled, mark the product not available on the basis of this information. Capture the misses, identify patterns at the product level, and define stricter processes to ensure misses do not happen in the future. Now, let's move on to another common reason for a seller to cancel an order: tech issues. Here, a seller has updated his inventory, but the inventory does not reduce on the dashboard on order placement by the buyer. So the seller will continue to receive more orders even if the actual physical inventory is zero. Here too, the seller will have to cancel all new orders, and your tech team needs to check and resolve the issue. One more reason for a seller to cancel an order could be when there is a mistake in product pricing. There is a minimum margin that a seller expects to earn from a product sale. If there is a pricing mistake which reduces this margin and makes it less than the minimum expected margin, the seller will not be willing to fulfill the order and may cancel. This is also a standard operating procedure issue at the seller's end. This means a seller needs training in following a standard operating procedure for this situation as well. Here's a suggested SOP for managing cancellations due to mistakes in product pricing. If the correct prices are not updated by the seller for a product, one of the two scenarios may happen. 1. If the prices are uncompetitive, then seller might not get potential orders for those products. 2. If the prices are competitive but do not meet the desired margin expectation, then the seller may receive orders that the seller may not be able to fulfill, resulting in seller cancellations. An extreme case may be that if the product is a high-selling product and prices are incorrectly configured, the seller may get a high volume of orders for the product, all of which may get cancelled due to low margins. This is commonly seen during festivals where sellers forget to update discounted prices after the festival period is over. In this case, you can create a feature where the price is automatically updated after a set period of time. For sellers to be able to take more measures in adjusting their prices, they are advised to follow these steps regularly. First, sellers should download the price mapping report with details for product ID, product name, category, and current selling price from the seller panel. And the seller will have to fill in the data for the selling price of other sellers, buying price, and current margin in this report. You, the seller network participant, must periodically prompt sellers to check pricing and provide tools to update this. For example, for margin-based pricing, they may provide a tool as shown here and also populate it with data such as competitive seller prices. Now, let's see how you map your prices to correct or change them as needed. Step 1. Add the latest buying price. Step 2. Calculate and update the current margin as per the formulae in the current margin column. Step 3. Seller must map the expected margin in the expected profit margin column. Step 4. Seller must map the selling price from other sellers to arrive at price competitiveness. Step 5. Compare current margin with expected margin. Step 6. Basis step 4 and 5, change the price as per business priorities. Step 7. Seller must update new pricing to the seller panel against each product where changes are done. Doing this exercise daily, especially for high-selling items, will help track prices and minimize seller cancellations due to pricing issues. There's one last reason for seller cancellations. Some sellers, for reasons known or unknown, may not respond or stop responding when an order is placed, resulting in you having to cancel an order. This is a problem for you because this is solely a seller intent issue. And the guideline to address this is simply to give a warning to the seller, followed by an improvement period, and to deactivate the seller if the seller continues to behave in a similar fashion. Overall, you should ensure that the sellers can download inventory status and price reports. Reports with relevant fields are provided in the seller panel. Sellers are trained to create and read these reports. Guidelines are made available for creating inventory reports. Regular adherence to this exercise, especially for high-selling items, will minimize seller cancellations due to pricing issues. Also note, a refund in seller cancellation instances is governed by e-commerce rules, and price manipulation is not allowed under the Consumer Protection Act. You can scan this QR code and read about this in Chapter 2 of ONDC Network's Business Rules. While following the guidelines to address different seller order cancellations, you must ensure that the sellers are performing. It is important to measure their performance with the help of metrics. The first metric to track is the seller cancellation rate. Why track this? This helps you track the rate of cancellations by customers. How does one calculate this rate? Simply divide the number of orders cancelled by the seller by the total orders confirmed by the seller and multiply it by 100. The second metric is percentage of sellers with greater than X percentage of seller cancellations. This will help you measure the quality of sellers. To calculate this metric, divide percentage of sellers with greater than X percentage of seller cancellations by total sellers confirming orders multiplied by 100. Please note, refunds in seller cancellation instances are governed by e-commerce rules. Also, price manipulation is not allowed under Consumer Protection Rules 2020. Scan this QR code to know more. Let's summarize what we learnt in this video. We covered a comprehensive overview of seller cancellations, including the various reasons why a seller might cancel an order. We also delved into the standard operating procedures designed to effectively handle such situations, ensuring that sellers connected with you continue to manage orders efficiently. In the following video, we will learn how to manage cancellations when they are initiated at the customer's end, to understand why they happen and how you can control them by initiating the right actions immediately. To know more about it, watch the video on managing customer cancellations.